You're listening to WMPG 90.9 Gorham, Portland, Southern Maine Community Radio from USM. Live from the Orion Cygnus arm of the Milky Way galaxy, this is Scientifically Speaking, a weekly half-hour program devoted to elegant curiosities, and I am one of your hosts, Sarah Chang, and joining me, as always, is Bernie Rhyme, DJ Star Watcher. How are you, Bernie?
Yes, hi, Sarah. Very good. Thank you.
Bernie is our professor of the Astronomy Lab at USM and our local protector of the night skies. Reach out to us at WMPG Scientifically Speaking at gmail.com or on Twitter at WMPG SciSpeak. And if you missed this show or any of your other favorite shows on the station, go to WMPG.org where you can find this week's show and the last 5 weeks of archives. Bernie, could you let our listeners know what is up in the night sky for this coming week?
Yes, certainly. Be glad to. All right, so this will be Friday, March 26th. So it's going to be close to a full moon. It'll still be a waxing gibbous moon, actually. It will be full in a couple days, but it will look full. So the March full moon has a couple of different names. It's called the sap moon, which makes sense because the sap will be running from the maple trees. Then it's also called the crow moon, which doesn't make that much sense because crows are always here anyway. Then it's the worm moon, because if the snow had melted by now, there'll be some worms coming out of the grass. And then it's a Lenten moon, because it's generally the Lenten season before Easter. So that's the different full moons coming up. And then basically Mars is still the only evening planet. It sets about the same time because it's moving about a constellation per month eastward. So the net result is sets about the same time just before midnight. It's nice and red. It's in Taurus. It was near the Pleiades a little while ago, and it's heading through Taurus and into Gemini now. And then if you get up early, Jupiter and Saturn are both going to be higher in the morning sky. And early in April, Venus will eventually, in another week or so, show up as an evening planet. And it was gone for about the last month and a half. So that's it for the planets. But there's a very interesting thing coming up tomorrow, Saturday, March 27th. So this is called the International Earth Hour. It's always the last Saturday of the month. It's not quite as old as the Earth Day, which is April 22nd, regardless of the day. So Earth Hour was started in 2007 in Sydney, Australia. So basically, everyone that knows about it can turn off their lights for 1 hour. It's always 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. So that would be that local hour. Of course, that would rotate around the Earth as you go. So like millions of people are doing this. Now there's thousands of cities. There's about most of the countries, like 180 countries are now doing this. So basically, of course, you would save a little bit of energy for that hour. But the point is really to bring up climate change, to show how much of an effect people can have when everyone cooperates and works together. And of course, if it's clear that Saturday night at 8:30, you can go out and look at some stars, even if you live right in downtown Portland, because all the non-essential lights should be out. And I don't know if Portland specifically participates, but you can certainly participate just for your own home and do something, thinking about that or going outside for that 1 hour and kind of see and be aware of the climate change in the different ways that kind of unifies everyone on Earth for that hour coming up Saturday at 8:30. Yeah.
That's awesome. Great call to action to our listeners.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's also, I thought actually it was related to dark sky net, but I guess not. So saving our dark skies, but
Yeah, it is
climate
partly, but it's more for the climate change part.
Mhm.
But that, yeah, obviously dark sky, yeah. But I mean, because then when the lights come back on at 9:30, then you're back to whatever. So unless you
Yeah.
made some changes and got better types of lights, or let your neighbors know, or a local business that they need better types of lights, that's where the dark sky part would come in.
Yeah. So then can you still use power?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can use
Like
power.
what if you were watching TV? Does that count?
That's individual. That's up to you. I mean, I would try to not watch anything for that hour because it's a nice way to kind of, I mean, use as little, turn regular lights, don't even like watch TV for that hour. And obviously if it's clear, go outside. But if it isn't, I mean, it is the end of March. They don't do this
Sure.
in the winters. They're not going to be frozen unless you have a freak blizzard or something. Um, just, almost like not pretend that you don't have power, but, do something in that sense where you could feel more solidarity maybe for that hour or something.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks,
Yeah.
Bernie.
Sure.
And if you couldn't take notes fast enough on what was up in the night sky, you can also check out the monthly What's Up column in the Portland Press Herald.
Mhm.
And so this week we're about 5 days late in some sense, but we wanted to celebrate International Poetry Day our way. And a couple months back in January, we had Khadijah on, Khadijah Kagoni, who was one of Bernie's students. And she shared some of the poems that she wrote in her journal during while taking your astronomy lab
Yeah.
class.
Mhm.
And so we had also had prepared a bunch of material related to poetry and for Bernie, in Bernie's case, a lot of eclipse related poetry. And so we wanted to bring all of that back and celebrate International Poetry Day here on Scientifically Speaking and on WMPG 90.9 for our listeners. And so we're bringing to you a lot of science poetry, all started by Khadijah. So thanks to her, and you can check out that show as well if you missed it. That was such an amazing show. But here today, it's just going to be a poetry slam with Bernie and myself.
There you
And
go.
we'll try to do some interpretation,
Yeah.
but I do warn you, neither of us are, well, at least I am not a learned English anything.
Okay.
But we will do our best.
Well,
So
everyone interprets it differently, so it'll be kind of fun.
yeah.
We haven't heard these before. It'll be fun to
Yeah, no,
interpret it
I'm
live
super
on the
excited.
spot for our people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So, Bernie, kick us off. What,
Yeah.
actually, before we go into it, because these are all haikus on the eclipse back in
Yeah.
2017, right?
Yeah.
We also wanted to give a shout out to the eclipse coming up soon, in case now is a good time to start planning.
So says Bernie.
Yes. You thought it was way ahead, but it's really only 3 years away. April 8th, 2024. So,
Well, I remember when I saw the eclipse when I was in, uh, and where was I? Illinois. I
mhm.
remember thinking, oh, 7 years. Wow, I'm not going
Yeah.
to be in Maine then.
Well, it was 7 years
And
from then, and we're down to 3.
I know, time flies.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
All right. So, April 8th is when that next eclipse is coming to Maine. And you said it was about a 90-mile radius or 90-mile width.
Yeah, but you have to be near the center of that 90-mile path. So you get
Mhm.
Bethel, Mount Katahdin, and then on up into northeastern Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now's the time to book those
Yeah. The room,
cabins
well, the
and
prices are still good because once people find out there's an eclipse, they'll like triple their prices. A lot of people that live in that area don't even know about it yet.
yeah,
So it's not too early. And ask your
coming.
day off from work and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
coming soon,
yep,
2024.
that's right.
All right. So Bernie, give us a little backstory of these haikus that you're going to share with us.
Okay. Well, first I'll mention a little bit about what a haiku is, and our listeners can also try to write some for themselves on anything related. It doesn't have to be something as dramatic as like a big meteor shower or an eclipse or even anything astronomy related. But haikus are really interesting because they're basically the simplest form of poetry. They were first written by a Japanese person in like 1660, so it's not all that long ago. And the word just means starting verse. I mean, there's no deep philosophical meaning. Haiku just means starting verse. But they're really interesting because they can be very artistic and well crafted. They're basically have to do with something directly observed in nature. I mean, something like an eclipse is just a perfect topic, but that's very directly observed, and it's certainly nature, and it's certainly not your common everyday. But a lot of haikus can be common everyday nature, like rivers and oceans and trees and that type of thing. And basically, what it wants to do, other than just like a snapshot image of something you take with a cell phone, you want to craft it a little bit. So what you want to do, you want to like present two images side by side. You're kind of comparing and contrasting two interesting different aspects of the same thing. So all of the ones I have from my students do that really well, even if they didn't know about some of those details, because I didn't get into a lot of details before they did the poetry. So you want to connect them and compare them. And then what's really interesting too, you want to have like an element of surprise. I mean, it's almost like a good musical piece, has all these neat things in the brain works certain ways, but you want to be surprised and kept interested and so on. So there's something called like a cutting word or a turning point or a cutting moment where you throw something in that you don't expect with the comparison of these two. You're not just comparing one thing to another. Yeah, that's not a big deal. But you're comparing it and you're kind of flipping them and adding an element of surprise into that. You're taking like a leap into a new thing that you would not expect, even in those three short verses. It's only 17 syllables. You can do all these things. So you might want to compare it actually to like a photograph, a really well crafted, well thought out photograph, meeting all the elements of composition, the rule of thirds, in photography, obviously different in writing. So you want to compare to that, not just a snapshot. But it's an instant in time, so you want to photograph it using these rules. So you heard a picture is worth 1,000 words,
Mhm.
but a really good haiku could be worth like many pictures even.
Hmm.
So you can really get way beyond just, regular poems kind of try to do that too, obviously. But a good haiku will do it. So you want to compose it well. You want to meet all those elements of surprise, and then think of it as like a photograph, and you're trying to capture something that you wouldn't even think about. So it works so well for my students because almost none of them, a few of them earlier when I started this lab in 2017, they were actually able to see that same eclipse. They either
Mm.
happened to be there if they lived there, or one took a bicycle from New Jersey all the way down to South Carolina to see the eclipse, and others others drove to it. We thought we did a lot by driving, but this guy biked all the way down there, so they were there. But yeah, so they were able to kind of do it that way. But then they really hadn't thought about it, and most of them hadn't seen it. So obviously, just learning about what creates an eclipse is good, but having it in a totally different way in their own mind and artistically, and having them created something almost like you take a good as to photograph, you create it, and they create these poetry, and of course I grade them and give it back to them so they can have them and share other poems that other students have written, so on. So it's a really neat way to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, thanks for that. That's so much detail. I did not
yeah.
expect.
Well, there's whole books written on that, so I just really summarized because I want our listeners to write some haikus about all kinds of things. Don't we just wait till the next eclipse?
Yeah,
Write
yeah. But
write a
I like.
haiku about the full moon or the ocean or
Right.
anything that you can do.
Right, right. No, I like the idea that it needs to, or I guess that concept of needing to have that little twist or that
Yeah,
element of surprise.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah.
that's a different way of looking at it for me, anyways. So,
Mhm.
anyways,
Yeah,
invitation to our listeners:
yeah,
write a haiku about something in nature, and you can send it to us. Share it
yeah,
with us, and maybe if we get enough submissions, we'll share it on the air as well.
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
So, do
Yeah.
you want to share
Yeah.
some of the haikus that you
Okay.
have with
Good.
you?
Yes, I will. Okay, so some of these have to do with light, and there's many different aspects even of an eclipse. But I'll start with one on light that has a really interesting twist. Obviously, you want to use simile and metaphor and all the other things, but the haiku allowed other things because of the photograph part. Okay, so here it is. Light slipping away, suddenly moon covers sun, condensing matter.
Oh,
Yeah. Now
that's nice.
that's really the surprise part is the condensing matter part.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this actually fits into physics and quantum mechanics and all kinds of things too. So it starts kind of nice. I mean, obviously the light slip, it's a 3.5 hour event, as you know. The first hour and a half, the light slips away. It doesn't get really interesting till about 10 minutes before the eclipse. Shadows get super sharp. It gets really cold, even though this was the middle of summer. And then, of course, we know the moon covers the sun. So yes, but then condensing matter. So this is the part that really, this is the whole element surprise, not just comparing the two images. So what do you think about that part of it?
That's good. I mean,
Yeah.
even that last line,
Mhm.
I mean, it fits the syllables so well. I
Yeah.
don't know if I would have come up with that.
Well,
It
I
seems
was surprised. I
so,
mean,
yeah,
these are non-English these are like business majors and criminology majors and sports majors, and they wrote some amazing poetry.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that almost seems like your quintessential. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems to contain all the elements that you just talked
Yeah. I
about.
mean, these could be professional. I mean, they could, make books out of these things or whatever. I don't know, write enough of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. It feels so observational in the beginning and then all of a sudden condensing matter.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Yeah. Because that's kind of what happened. I mean, I had a sense I was getting a look into the inner workings of the solar system
Mm,
that you could never see. I mean, you could study astronomy and know all the math and physics and have gone to Harvard and Yale and MIT, and you wouldn't really know what this works like or what the sun really looks like. That halo is always there. We only see it for 2 minutes every, several years, but the halo is always there and stuff. So all these things are always happening. There's always like a fourth dimensional. I was talking to people there. I was trying to get some, interviews for our shows, but the tape recorder didn't work or whatever. I was talking to a software engineer that was Indian American, and she was saying some neat things about being transported off the planet during that eclipse and stuff. and everyone had all kinds of insights. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to interview them all about it, but
Yeah.
it was kind of neat that we could both see it, and to get our listeners ready for the next one too. It was amazing
Yeah.
stuff that they
No,
can.
that was actually
Yeah,
very high level.
yeah. Well,
I
I
wasn't
thought that
expecting that.
actually. I know. Yeah. Okay, so here's another one. As nature stands still, heavenly bodies move to align, darkness quiets all.
Mm.
Yeah. So that was the thing. After the people kind of got over, cheered when the sun first went, then we were quiet, and it wasn't pitch black, but it was dark enough. And of course, these are heavenly bodies that are moving. Nature was kind of being still and showing us something totally different than, we think we know the sky, but suddenly in the middle of the noontime, the sky is completely different. You'd never see a sky like that. And then the quiet aspect of it. I wasn't with hundreds of other people, so I was kind of lucky that we could be quiet, only like 20 of us. And there's
But
really no changes.
when
Yeah.
for me it was the opposite. It
Hmm.
got very loud because all
Yeah.
the chirping, the birds, everything was going crazy.
Well, we had a few insects started chirping because they thought it was nice.
Yeah.
We didn't have birds per se.
Yeah, it was very loud.
Okay.
Um, but I guess yeah, different
Yeah.
experience for everyone.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the alignment part is kind of interesting too
Yeah.
because, and it's actually, this is not my thing, but it's interesting I thought of. So David Levy came up with it. So for an eclipse, you have a syzygy, you have the alignment of three heavenly bodies. I mean, that's just a technical term. But you have to become the fourth body, you physically,
Oh.
to be in that alignment, or it means nothing. I mean, they happen every year and a half, but very few people actually see them unless they
But
make the effort.
are we really celestial bodies though?
Well, no, in a sense, we are, of course.
We're made of stars.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at all the atoms. You have 10 to the 28th atoms, every one of us does. That's more than our stars in the known universe.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So,
I
yeah.
wouldn't consider myself to be that special, but
Well, no, everyone
no,
is.
but
Yeah.
that's very
Yeah.
but then we wouldn't be a syzygy because that's three, right? That's
Well,
only
that's
three.
three, but you become the
Yeah.
fourth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's how accurate it is, too, because the moon shadow barely reaches the Earth. So it's
Hmm.
super accurate. Like if you watch a lunar eclipse, half the Earth can see it. It
Yeah.
lasts, you're right in the shadow for an entire hour. It's not a big deal. You
Hmm.
can just about see it anywhere. But you have to be so accurate for that solar eclipse.
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
precision. I mean, nature is very precise. If you're a minute late or if you're just outside that shadow, I talked to some people in Yellowstone. They saw like 99%. So they basically didn't even see it. It was just like a partial. And, they were a little upset or some didn't even know or didn't bother to drive that extra 10 miles.
Yeah.
Nature is really precise. So that's an
Yeah.
interesting
Huh.
aspect too.
But I do like I thought his second line was very or their second line was had a lot of imagery with it. So you could it's
Yeah.
like you could see that.
Yeah, move to align because
Yeah.
they're always
Hmm.
moving, but they're not always aligning. And then unless
Yeah.
you place yourself there, like the Grand Canyon is great, but unless you take a river trip down the Grand Canyon, you're not really going to experience that. You
Yeah.
can't watch a video about it.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. So you have to make that other effort. Okay, so here's another one. Sun runs from the sky, stars flare to life, fade again, a false night, a dream.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that. A false night.
Yeah, because you get night in the middle of this happened to be almost exactly at noontime. I
Yeah.
mean, it could be morning or evening, but this was exactly in the middle of the day. So it's a false night, and the sun was like running from the sky and hiding. There was a lot of mythology around this, and people were frightened because the sun was being taken from them. And then other stars came to life as the sun got dimmer, and so that whole aspect of things fading and coming in. This has a lot of different interesting things running through it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that one.
yeah.
Did it have a title?
No,
No
unfortunately, I don't.
title.
None of my students titled these. I mean, they all would have been terrific. I mean, they could have been in books or done artwork. They inspired music and art and titles, and they were just incredible. But
Yeah.
none of them really had any titles. I mean, I could
Yeah.
come up with titles.
I feel like that one too, especially gets you
Yeah,
thinking about it. It feels a little more philosophical.
yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And generally, I mean, mine obviously, as Kaji just said, it's not just being taught as a math or science class. I leave room for all these other aspects, but this is like the best way they could express that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another one, a little more like regal. audience on earth, heavenly coronation, praise the Son, the King.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
really different approach.
yeah, exactly.
I
I mean,
wonder what they meant by praise the sun, the king.
well, in a lot of mythologies, the sun was like the king. I mean, you had divine right of kings; they were always related to the sun.
But
In this,
I guess I mean in this case, because
Mhm.
it's it's like something is coming to cover up the king,
Right?
and so I just wonder
Yeah,
what they see.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure, but with the halo, with that, the halo of the sun being the corona of the sun,
Yeah.
was that king supposedly? I mean, everyone potentially, of
Could it
course.
be from, could it be talking about the eclipse from the moon's perspective?
Oh, maybe I didn't think about that. Yeah,
I
maybe.
don't know.
But I like the first part. I mean, audience on Earth. This is like this big event,
Yeah.
and I mean, it does happen on a fairly regular basis. You might have to travel to the middle of nowhere to go see it. But then the coronation, because it's like a crowning,
Right,
because
right.
it is called crown or corona, so it is a
Yeah,
crown.
that's true.
4 million miles into space, it's always there. We don't usually see it. And obviously, praise. I mean, without the sun, we'd have no life on this planet or anywhere in the solar system. So that,
Yeah, so I wonder, well, I guess it could be from either perspective, but it almost sounds like it's talking about the sun now giving like the crown to the moon.
oh, like passing along the.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's good. I didn't thought about that at all. Yeah,
But
it could
then
be.
he takes it away very quickly.
Yeah, I know. I know these are probably better than the students even thought when they wrote them. There's so many interpretation. Well, that's a good piece of music or art has that too.
Yeah,
You create a nice painting, everyone sees it differently and gets really good things out if it follows the principles. And all these obviously follow the principles.
right.
I wouldn't have picked them to read them if they were just some crummy thing, some crummy thing. But these are really good. Okay, so let me see. Here's another one. Let me see. Oh, yes, this is related to that. Okay, so Corona dazzles, diamond ring emerges clear, darkness engulfs land.
Mm,
So that's another aspect. I mean, there is something right before it goes out called the diamond ring.
yeah, yeah.
So a lot of students picked up on that part of it and made it into something really valuable and so on. So diamond, it lasts less than a second,
Yeah.
just before the sun goes out, and then it comes out of even more dramatic out of the darkness before the sun reappears. And it's caused by the mountains on the moon. So that's the final effect. It's like this is like a perfect show that that we couldn't even orchestrate anything. Well, there's so many features and aspects to an eclipse. It's not just it doesn't just go
Right,
dark and then come light again. So many things are going on.
right.
So
Yeah, I feel like that didn't have as much metaphor in it. At least it
yeah,
didn't seem like it, but
it's true. It was more
uh,
like an action haiku. It
right,
was an
right.
action instead of all the interesting twists and turns some of the other ones took.
Yeah. But I mean, I think if you never seen an eclipse, you'd probably be like, "What is it? What? What diamond
Yeah.
ring? Like, what is he talking about?"
Oh yeah.
It would
Yeah.
probably feel misplaced. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Definitely. Okay, so this one kind of relates to that. So silver sphere changes. Suddenly a copper glow, gemstone in orbit.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like that
So
one.
they picked up on the sense that the sun is still orbiting, we're still orbiting, because it
Mm,
looks like a static event. But I got a glimpse into the inner working of the solar system, knowing how it's not a static event at all. When you suddenly see the planets, you only see them for 2 minutes, but those planets are zipping around. The sun's moving around our galaxy. So they picked up on that other aspect of it not
yeah.
being static.
No, I like
Hmm.
their interpretation
Hmm.
of these planets. Well, not the planets, the moon and the sun being like gemstones.
Yeah.
So that
Hmm.
that coloring was really vivid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what the copper glow referred to, as you probably remember also, there's a permanent twilight, well, permanent for those 2 minutes, all the way around us in 360 degrees. So it's nothing like a sunrise or sunset where it's only half the sky.
Oh,
So I don't know if you were able to look around or catch some of that. Because I was so focused, I was taking pictures and cameras. I saw
yeah.
it, but I didn't get like a nice 360 view of it.
Mm,
And it was a coppery glow, salmon colored copper. you're seeing the whole atmosphere at once. And
Wow.
this is a really neat thing because first of all, of course, we never usually see that, but then you get a sense of the atmosphere, how precious it is, how important, how we breathe it, how we need to keep it clean, and you see it all at once. And I think that's the copper glow they were referring to.
Wow. That's I no, I didn't notice that. I was just
Yeah,
so fixated
yeah.
on the
Well, I
actual
was too because I even
eclipse.
forgot like to take my filter off at first, and then I
Yeah,
knew it
me
was going to be
too.
dark, and I got a lot of fairly good pictures. I was kind of lucky even I got those. So I wasn't able to enjoy the whole. The next one I can have more time to enjoy everything and still film
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I even, I still had my glasses on because I didn't
yeah,
know exactly when I could take them
yeah.
off until I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, we can take them off."
Yeah, all right, yeah. Yeah. Okay, let me see. What else have we got here? Hmm, those are really good. I won't do all of them. All right, so here's one that more gets more into the nature of time, maybe other than just the eclipse itself,
Mm.
because the space and time are connected, and you get a sense of that too, because you're almost like in the fourth dimension when you're seeing this, because everything is so. Okay, so time, not a straight line, bending, twisting, as does space. Where will we go next?
Hmm.
So it's almost like you're going through this portal or something and not knowing where you're going to go next when you watch. I mean, this you could supposedly experience anytime. You don't have to be seeing an eclipse for this.
Right.
But they were really getting a sense of, like Einstein obviously figured out in relativity what time was,
Yeah.
in time and space and gravity and all this. But that's really a time you get a fourth dimensional sense, and you almost also get a quantum mechanics sense of the dual nature because basically you see everything at once. You see yin and yang, you see darkness and light,
Hmm.
you see nighttime in the middle at noontime. It's almost like an atom. It's called, an atom can be in two places at once in some
Hmm.
sense. That you need that for quantum computing. Like you were in, I almost felt like I was in this quantum computer, seeing the two states, the wave state and the particle state all at once, all at the same time.
Oh,
So that's
that's
why I was
very
able.
deep.
Yeah, well, I was able to see all this in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And the students, I think, were getting different aspects, and they were seeing things obviously that I couldn't see or you couldn't see
Yeah.
either. But so time is another aspect of space, which is important too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did were there any that talked about partials or temperature
Uh,
drops? I'm trying
oh,
to
well, they
think of
might
what
have,
other
but I think I
aspects.
only picked some because I had them write about lunar and or solar and some other thing they learned in my course.
Okay,
But just
okay.
for now, I think I already picked pretty much. So, and the time one I think wasn't specific for solar, but yeah, I mean partials are. I mean they're like literally night and day difference.
Yeah.
Partial, it's still daytime. Yeah, you're a little chunk. The sun looks very small. So I felt it kind of took over the whole sky. Even though it was up, it was technically small, but I had, a camera lens on it, and my friends had binoculars and everything, and another friend had a telescope. So I felt it took over because the halo was 4 million miles into space. That's 4% of the distance back to the Earth. It was
Yeah.
literally like it was reaching out to me, and everyone that was like, I think 60 million people saw that eclipse. That was the biggest natural event ever seen in the history of the 200,000-year history of modern humans. So this was really an amazing event.
It really was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
60
just
million plus.
remember the cheering. I
Yeah,
remember looking back and
mhm,
seeing
mhm,
the sh the
yeah,
the sun
mhm.
going through the leaves and
Oh yeah,
then
the
the
little crescent suns
partial.
dancing
Yeah, there were
everywhere. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That was really amazing.
yeah,
I was like, "What is
yeah.
that?"
Yeah, that's a principle of physics and optics. And
Mm,
I like it when the shadows got so super sharp.
yeah. Yeah.
Everything was you turned up the high contrast on everything on the entire world in front of you.
I don't think I
You didn't notice that part?
no, I was just so
Oh,
fixated on the
yeah.
because it was the
Well,
first time I'd seen
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well, it
Well,
was
I
my
think
first one too, but
it
I
was the
had
first
certain
one
things I
too.
knew I was going to be looking, and I was
Yeah.
with an expert who had seen like 15 of these. He had seen them all, and he gave me some tips, and they were like, as about 10 or 15 people. So
I didn't even
that
have
really helped.
time, yeah, to even
Yeah.
look for Mars because I think Mars was up. Like you could see
Oh yeah, you could
some
see
of the
several
planets
stars,
nearby. Yeah.
all the planets that were near at the time. And then since I was on a high plateau, I could see the moon shadow rushing over us. It's moving almost 2,000 miles an hour.
Wow.
So I could watch that, because I was at 6,000 feet near the Grand Tetons.
Yeah.
And the moon shadow, they said it would come from the west and go to the east, which of course it has to do.
Yeah.
And you got a sense several seconds. That took several seconds.
Yeah.
So I could get a sense of that whole shadow cone and so many things that were happening But you want to be a little practiced and prepared, even though it's all going to be new and unusual and amazing. But you want to know a little bit what to expect so you'll be ready. Just like for the atmosphere part, the
Yeah.
360-degree atmosphere. Look for that next time.
I think the one thing I was sad to miss were
Mhm.
the beads, the three
Oh, I
beads.
didn't see them either. Yeah, barely
Yeah.
beads.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some people saw them for the eclipse, but maybe your location or my location. And then the shadow bands on the ground, I didn't see them either. You need like something white, ideally.
Mm,
If I put down a big white sheet, I might have seen those shadow bands.
yeah.
Diffraction effect through the atmosphere.
Mm,
But other people I talked to did see them, so
mm.
they were there. Yeah.
Well,
But
thank you, Bernie. That
yeah.
was a wonderful exploration of some of
Oh, you're
the
welcome. We only got to a
mystery.
few of them, but that's good. I had lots more.
Well, and we're coming on to the end of the show. So just another reminder, look out for April 8th, 2024. That's when Maine will actually be in the path of the next solar eclipse.
Yep.
Make sure to request for that day off.
Yes, definitely. Not too early to ask. It shows you dedication to work.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been listening to Scientifically Speaking here on WMPG 90.9 with myself and Bernie. Stay tuned for Sports Jam with Colin and Connor. And from your favorite nerds, mask up and we wish you healthy bodies and clean air.